and welcome to another installment of the SportsRap podcast right here on Heat 100 Radio, heat100radio.com. But right now I'm having a little technical difficulties, but nonetheless I'm here with you. Facebook, SportsRap Podcast, LLC is the group page. You know that. You know that's where I am. So get there if you get there. For my Instagram people, let me see here. I'm live also on IG simultaneously here. For my Instagram people, you know what that is, at SportsRap_D. So we got some stuff to get to, and again, folks, let me know when you were here, like I did at the Drake. You know how I do on Facebook. When I see the comments, I will definitely get to them, acknowledge people who comment and chime in on what's going on. Also on Instagram, I'll send you your waves and all of that kind of jazz and things of that nature. And also, folks, I just want to make sure everybody can hear me. Like I said, a little technical difficulties going on within the studio right now. But we're going to work that out. And as a matter of fact, it is worked out right now. So give me a second. I'm going to hook myself in. Bam. Throw these on. Right. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix myself up. And y'all can see, I want y'all to see all this on camera. That I'm fixing myself up here. I'm getting to it. So, like I said, we back up. So I'm going to hold off on this real quick and chime this microphone up. And I'm sure you all can hear me now. So, like I said, good morning all. Good morning. Welcome to another installment of the SportsRap Podcast right here on Heat 100 Radio, heat100radio.com. And it is your boy, SportsRap D, in the building. I don't know what's going on with my mic. All right, there we go. Got some volume on that mic right there. So I'm back. Like I said, Facebook, SportsRap Podcast, LLC is the group page. You already know that. Doing some Instagram Live today as well. So we are right there. And they're telling some people. So once you get the alert that I'm live, you know what to do. Chime right on in there. And let me know who you are. Let me know where you're from. And I will wave at you or acknowledge you like I do on Facebook. We all know how that goes and plays out. So we got a lot of stuff to get to today. Got a lot of football talk. And for anybody that was tuned in that has to get back to radio, you can get to that TuneIn app. The TuneIn app, search Heat 100 Radio. You can get us there, or you can just go to heat100radio.com. I worked out the technical difficulties, and we are up and running, and we are live. So, got some news and some updates for you real quick. The Bengals are livid that there's a possibility, that their playoff site could be chosen by a coin flip, rather not a flip coin, but a coin flip. Basically, all that is just the fact that the game, we know the situation from Monday night, and that was a very, very serious situation. So they're like, that game has been canceled, and it was initially they tried to think about making it up, but it was like no way they could make it up with the scheduling and the way the season was playing out. So they just canceled that game, and the two teams that played may have a possibility of playing at a neutral site for a playoff game. And then we know Damar Hamlin is still in critical condition, but he is steadily making improvements. He's talked to some people. He's FaceTime with some people, some friends in the NFL and some teammates. One of those friends being Miles Sanders of the Philadelphia Eagles. But he's in good spirits, and he's steadily making improvements. So blessings to him and his family for a speedy, steady recovery. Players at a Division III school were hospitalized after a workout. The Dodgers are apparently cutting ties with Trevor Bauer after reinstatement. The NFL owners approved the playoff changes amid the Bengals Bills cancellation. That's basically a report. There's another way to say everything that I just told you about the Bengals being upset and what I mentioned about the coin flip that could possibly determine the site of a crucial playoff game. Venus Williams withdraws from the Australian Open due to an injury. Our Fighting Phils, defending National League champions, made another trade over the last few days. they traded Matt Verling, Nick Maton, and Donnie Sands to the Detroit Tigers for relief pitcher Gregory Soto and infielder Cody Clemens. Among the 12 black quarterbacks in the NFL right now, starting quarterbacks, they did a little article, and I posted it on the page, so you can go check it out in full detail if you like. They judged them, ranked them by their swag. Our own MVP, Jalen Hurts, quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles, was number 3 on the list, behind only Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson. I don't know how much I feel about. I don't know how I feel about that. Kyler Murray kind of has a slight advantage, although he did come in at number 2. And as far as swag, he's in a warm climate area where it's warm pretty much all the time. So he's got a little bit of an advantage there. Baltimore and Philly, they've got to do more as far as seasons changing, and sometimes it's cold, sometimes it's hot, whatever. So I don't know, but you can go check that out on the page. That article is posted. Again, the NFL and the NFL Player Association, the NFL Players Association approached the NFL, and they agreed to pay DeMar Hamlin his full contract, even though he is on the IR. I think that's a great thing, and I also posted that as well. When you get on that injured reserve, like you get on the job, you get hurt, you get the percentage of your money, whatever. Things could change. I'm happy that the NFL Players Association were immediately on that, and I'm even more happy that the NFL agreed with it and decided to do it. I mean, it's a great thing. Again, this type of accident, and I mean, when I say accident, I mean the after effects of the accident. Because if you look at the play, and everybody's been talking about it, it was a basic football play. Of course, we know, and we found out after the fact about the shock to the organ and the medical stuff and all of that jazz. But when you looked at that play on the field, you looked at it as being a regular football play. And like I said, he stood up. You saw he stood up and then went back down. So, it's a blessing that he's improving. He's steadily improving. Then it's also an even bigger blessing that he gets to get his whole salary. So shout outs to the NFL and the NFL Players Association for getting together and taking care of that. Lovie Smith was fired as head coach of the Houston Texans. I think they were 13-1 this year. 1 year. It's the second year in a row they fired a coach after 1 year. Fred VanVleet turns down an extension of $114 million with the Raptors. Miles Turner turns down an extension from the Pacers. Javante Tank Davis defeats Garcia over the weekend, TKO in the beginning of the 9th round. The Dallas Mavericks waive Kemba Walker, and DeMarcus Cousins is set to work out for the Los Angeles Lakers. So that's your news, your updates, your news and your updates for January the 9th, 2023, folks. This is really 2023, so it is what it is. Let's see here. Who do I have that is tuned in? The person that's tuned in on my Facebook, I need you to chime in. Let me know who you are so I can give you a shout out. I see one person is viewing, I'm not sure, Facebook. So get in there and let me know what's going on with y'all over there. Instagram, like I said, if you're on Facebook, you know some people. If you're on Instagram, you should be getting an alert by now because I've been on for about 10 minutes. So you should be getting an alert soon. So if you on Instagram, get on in and check me out. I know y'all checked me out on Thursday at the Drake, and I told y'all I would be here on Monday. So this is where I am. So if y'all need to get in. And let me know that you're here. Like I said, shout out, let me know you're here, and I'll wave at you. Again, Facebook, when you get ready, throw your comments in. Do what you do, and we're going to get through this and talk some stuff. Got plenty of NFL playoff talk to talk about. Maybe we want to try and sprinkle in a little bit of Sixers. But as you know, if you've seen the post, I do have guest interview set to call in. And when we get that call, we will definitely get into that interview and let you guys enjoy that conversation. So moving on to some scores in the NHL on Sunday. The Canucks get beat by the Jets 7-4. The Panthers fall to the Stars 5-1. The Blue Jackets get blanked by the Capitals 1-0. The Blackhawks outlast the Flames 4-3. Penguins get by the Coyotes 4-1. The Blues blank the Wild 3-0. And the Maple Leafs get past the Flyers 6-2. And the Bruins beat up on the Ducks 7-1. In the NBA yesterday, the Sixers get another win, get back on the winning track. They take that game over the Pistons 123-111. The Blazers fall to the Raptors 117-105. The Pacers get by the Hornets 116-111. The Heat fall in a close one to the Brooklyn Nets 102-101. The Grizzlies get over on the Jazz 123-118. The Mavs fall to the Thunder 120-109. The Timberwolves get by the Rockets 104-96. The Suns fall to the Cavs 112-98. And the Hawks go to LA and get by the Clippers 112-108. Those are your NBA scores from yesterday. I'll have schedules for today. NHL, NBA, and NCAA championship game, title game is tonight as well. And I'll also give you the wild card schedules after we go through talking about how the NFL playoffs have been set. Moving on to final week of the regular season, week 18 of the NFL regular season. Going back to Saturday, January the 7th, Kansas City 31, Las Vegas 13. Tennessee falls to Jacksonville 20-16. Moving into yesterday's games. Baltimore at Cincinnati. Cincinnati takes that game 27-16. Tampa Bay falls to Atlanta in Atlanta 30-17. Buffalo gets by in a miraculous game. It was a crazy, crazy game for Buffalo. If you didn't see it, get somewhere and check the highlights and look at that game. Buffalo takes that 35-23. Minnesota gets by Chicago 29-13. Houston just gets by Indianapolis 32-31. And what I would say a sleeper, a weird odd score for the NFL. This is more like a baseball score or something. The Miami Dolphins get by the New York Jets 11-6. Carolina beats New Orleans 10-7. Pittsburgh gets by Cleveland 28-14. The Chargers fall to the Broncos 31-28. Philadelphia gets by the Giants, securing their number one seed 22-16. San Francisco beats up on Arizona 38-13. In overtime, the Rams fall to Seattle, and Seattle gets into the playoffs 19-16 in overtime again. The Dallas Cowboys fall to the Washington Commanders yesterday 26-6. And in the nightcap last night, Green Bay gets bumped out of the playoffs 2016 to the hands of the Detroit Lions. That's your NFL scores for that there. So I got some Instagram action. Tony Gregory 4. Thanks for joining and tuning in. I'm waving at you right now. My guy, Mighty, always tuning in, waved at you as well. So stay tuned, guys. Listen, we got NFL playoffs are upon us. And this is where we are. This is a time that a lot of us look forward to. A time that is a lot of fun for most of us. Most of us, I say that, and I mean that if your team is in the playoffs. If your team didn't make the playoffs, obviously it's not that nice of a time for you. In some instances, I'm sure some of the people could probably care less if their team is not in the playoffs. But nonetheless, we definitely have some playoff football to discuss and to talk about. So, not a lot of people, but I saw some stuff this morning as I'm perusing social media, getting my thoughts and everything together, my notes for this morning. And, there are some people who always seem to revel in the faults, the mishaps, or whatever, if you will, of Philadelphia Eagles and several other Philadelphia teams. So while we're hot now, we're talking Eagles and we're talking football, we're going to stay on the Eagles focus. There's a lot of people that went into and discussed or had comments about yesterday's game and reference to, oh, well, this is that and whatever. They just barely got by and yeah. So you look at that game yesterday, and of course, like I mentioned last week and like I mentioned on Thursday, the Eagles needed that game ultimately. It came down to that. Like I said, we had, going back the last 3 games of the season, we had 3 opportunities to get one. I saw one Cowboys fan that said, yeah, y'all had 3 chances to get one, but they got the one, so it really doesn't matter if they had 3, if they had 1, if they had 7 chances to get one. They only needed to get one. Just didn't happen when they wanted it to, but bottom line, they got the one that they needed. So, again, last game of the season meant a lot more to the Eagles than it did to the Giants yesterday. Hence the Giants rested a lot of their starters yesterday, giving them rest for the playoffs. And again, the Giants have to play on Wild Card Weekend, so their season is continuing. So yesterday's game going into their first game of the playoffs is basically like another week of the season. They're going to prepare for it like they would prepare during the season from week to week, but it's just more intense because it's a playoff game now instead of a regular season game. So they rested a lot of players, but you have to look at it, and it was mentioned, I think, at one point by one of the commentators yesterday, that you have these guys now, your second team stringers, your third string guys, that are going to be playing pretty much the entire game. And these guys are now being given their opportunity to shine. So they know going into the playoffs, their playing time will be limited, very, very limited, if any at all. So this last game, they've got to put some stuff on film. In the event that something happens in the offseason, they don't get re-signed, they get waived, yada, yada, yada. They put on some tape, or they even put on some tape for their coaching staff of their current teams to see where they are, how they have progressed through the season. So they're coming and they're bringing everything. You look on the other side of the ball, the Eagles team, they're getting their MVP back, Jalen Hurts, who could very arguably have been very rusty. And we saw he was a little rusty. He's out 2 weeks. And you see the difference. Like I always try to tell people and remind people, Jason, thanks for tuning in, cuzzo. I like to remind people that you can do certain things in practice, but it can only give you so much of what you're looking for because you're playing against your teammates and your teammates know what you're doing. You've got to get it in under some live bullets, like I always like to say. So with that being said, you have some practices where Jalen Hurts was looking good, and we kept getting those reports towards the end of the week moving into yesterday's game. But, of course, they played 2 games without him. One, pretty decent. Second one, not so great. So there was like that roller coaster, that real speed bump. And it was kind of like they hit that speed bump where they didn't know it was coming and they just didn't slow down and get over. They just kept rolling and boom, whatever. Everybody's done that before, I'm sure, so we know what I'm talking about. You know how it feels. And they get Jalen Hurts back. So there's going to be some kinks. There's going to be a little rust, I think they worked it out. I think he got into somewhat of a rhythm. I also think it was good that game was needed because he can get back into a rhythm with a week off going into the playoffs, as opposed to being off for about a month and then going into the playoffs. So now you've got him getting the game back, getting some rhythm, getting some continuity. Now you can get him back into practice, and you can slow walk him into practice a little bit. And I think that was what they did yesterday with the game plan, and where they wanted to bring him in to get him under some game time, to get some rhythm and some more, to regain that continuity with his teammates. But I also think they wanted to protect him a little bit. Because when I noticed, and I was talking to somebody else yesterday, I said I didn't see a lot of RPOs. And just me, I kind of felt like if you wanted to get him into the right rhythm, I felt like you kind of had to throw some in there. But you had to put stipulations on those RPOs. Like, if you're not going to give it, if you're going to pull it out, first chance you get to slide, first chance you get to run out of bounds, you get out of bounds. And once you're taking these hits, and I felt like that would have gotten him into a better rhythm quicker than yesterday. And I mean, you also think about the team and where you are and what the injury is. And sometimes you just have a small part in your back memory, the long term of this injury. And fortunately enough for him, it was not one of those injuries that was very serious, although because of the injury and where the injury was sustained, it could somewhere later in his career become a nagging injury. But I don't think it's going to bother him right now, because he's kind of like a freak in nature and he's going to play and whatever. So I don't think it's really going to bother him too much right now. But you look at yesterday's stats. Jalen Hurts yesterday in his return, 20 of 35, 229 yards, no touchdowns thrown, 1 interception. The interception threw it in a double coverage. It was in the end zone. So I don't know how to explain that, but I mean, it is what it is. I mean, you can easily chalk it up as some of that was still some rust where he maybe didn't place the ball where he should have, where he wanted to place it. You can probably go a bunch of different angles in that situation, but nonetheless, it was an interception, and it really didn't factor into the game much, but they didn't score any points off of that turnover. So, then on the other side, you had Davis Webb, a quarterback who had never thrown a pass in the NFL, getting his first start. He ultimately ended up 23 of 40 for 168 yards and 1 touchdown. So he ultimately threw his first pass. We knew that was going to happen anyway, but he ultimately got his first rushing touchdown and his first throwing touchdown as a starting QB in the NFL yesterday against the Philadelphia Eagles. But again, like we said, really didn't matter much. It kept them in the game a little bit. But again, like I said to someone had a poster up earlier, ugly win, a win no less. The Eagles will fix some things up, clean some things up, and get ready for the playoffs. The biggest thing I think about them having the bye is they have that week off, so they have that 2-week time frame where they have time to fix things and within themselves, and then they can focus on whoever their opponent is. So I think they'll be prepared for their first game. I am anxious for the weekend to see how this thing plays out. I'm going to give you the matchups in just a second. But, again, like I started this whole segment with this Eagles in the playoffs stuff, where people are like, oh, well, the Eagles this and this and that was an ugly win and they better get it fixed. Well, they'll get it fixed. And a lot of that was fans of teams that have not made the playoffs. And then again, like I said, there's always some type of form of hate or dissension towards the Philly teams from all over the place. Even with some people that even live in the city, that may not even be diehard other team fans. Just, it is what it is. It happens. I've learned to live with it, deal with it. I don't really like it. I don't have to like it, but I understand what it is and I accept it for what it is. It's just that for me. But, the number 1 seed is a blessing. I think they earned it. Like I said, all season long, they were playing and they did things that good teams do to win games. Some people say they struggled against the Colts. Yeah, they did. Struggled against the Lions early in the season. They did. Struggled against the Texans. They did. But all 3 of those games, they ultimately ended up winning. And that's what I meant when I said they're beginning to show you that they are becoming one of those teams, one of those good teams, a really good team. And you think the freak shoulder injury that we didn't hear about until after the game, and he played that entire Chicago game. Barring that freak injury, ideally, you could think that the Eagles could have went 16-1. That Washington Commanders game, take it for what it is, was a legit loss. They just didn't show up that night. They whatever happened that night, it wasn't their night. Washington came out like they were supposed to, played and handed them their first loss. So that was like a legit loss in my book. The other two late in the season, like we said, you didn't have your starting quarterback, your MVP. Two games that you still could have won. The Dallas game, you gave up 40 points on defense. You had 4 turnovers, but you still had a chance late in that game to win. The New Orleans Saints game, your defense got better later in that as the game progressed. Your defense only gave up a total of 13 points. Barring that pick six, you arguably could have had a chance to win that game. So you think about it, like I said, you figure playing devil's advocate, if you will, or just looking back, and you could argue that they could have ended up 16-1 in a 17-game season this year. But it is what it is. And, you know, they are where they are, 14-3. Another superb record. The only other team matching that is the AFC champs, the number one seed in the AFC, the Kansas City Chiefs. And immediately a lot of people are saying, oh, the Eagles Chiefs, we're going to get to see Andy Reid in the Super Bowl. And basically, listen, you know, I like all that talk. Got to get there first. Super Bowl's not tomorrow, and it's not just because these two teams got the top 2 records, they automatically go to the Super Bowl. You still got to play games. You still got other teams that are going to get in and fight, and you got to get there. So we will definitely see what happens. So moving on to the playoff picture in the AFC, like I just mentioned, the Kansas City Chiefs are the number 1 seed, so they get the bye in the AFC. The number 2 seed is the Buffalo Bills. The 3 seed, the Bengals, and the Bills were 13-3. That 1 game short because of that cancellation game. Also with the Bengals, 12-4 at the number 3 with that cancellation game, so they're 1 game less. The Jaguars at number 4 under first year head coach there, Doug Peterson, 9-8, get in at the number 4. The Chargers at 10-7 are the number 5 seed. Also at 10-7, the number 6 seed, the Ravens, and then the number 7, just sneaking in, if you will, the Miami Dolphins, also at 9-8. In the East, NFC you hear me? I'm thinking basketball because it is Key Enterprises, my guy. Thanks for tuning in, good brother, all the way from Texas. So in the NFC, Eagles get the number 1 seed, 14-3 record overall. Amongst all the shifting and whatever could happen here and all the possibilities, 49ers ultimately grabbed that number 2 seed, 13-4. The Vikings, with their up and down, and we never know who's going to show up, fall to number 3, 13-4 was their record. The Bucks are at number 4, surprisingly 8-9. They have the worst record of the teams in the playoffs, but they won their division. That's how they got the number 4 seed. Their record was 8-9. Number 5, the Cowboys at 12-5. Number 6, the Giants at 9-7-1, and number 7, making a push late in the season, getting in under Geno Smith. Seahawks 9-8, get in at the number 7 seed in the playoffs. So you know how this thing goes. The number 1 seeds get the bye. The other 6 teams play in the wild card weekend. Once that weekend gets done, the lowest remaining seed will go to the number 1 seed. The other teams will play each other, with the highest seed being the home team. All right? That's how you got that. I hope you understood that. And I hope you took your time to get to understand that. So, folks, I am going to take a quick break. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. iMoney 1587 join, waving at you too. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to take a quick break. When I come back, we're going to be doing simultaneous again. We're going to go back Instagram Live, so everybody stay tuned so you can look for the alert when I go back live. Also, Facebook, just make sure you have your alerts on so you'll know when I come back. And, folks, Sports Rap Podcast right here on Heat 100 Radio. It is your boy, SportsRap D. I will see y'all in just a second. Excuse the music. Like I said, there were some technical difficulties, so the music is definitely not where I wanted it to be. But I will get some in there for you guys before I get back and get to it.